He was taciturn and did not engage in chit-chat with other passengers. Rather, he ruminated in thoughts as the journey proceeded. How did I get here? He wrestled. What was I thinking? That I let my guards down. Now I'm a fugitive, trailed by mistakes of the past. He recalled the old woman's warning. It sounded like mercy at the time, which he discarded with little thought. Now it makes so much sense. But the deed is done, and he is trapped. He sucked in his breath and released a long exhale. The pressure of the whole experience dealt a fatal blow on him, which resulted in the wrinkle strain his face now elicits. His eye bags are bulging and the aging lines are more apparent. He will pass for someone in his late 40s when he is just hitting his mid-30s. His thought was suddenly invaded by the outcry of a passenger. "Driver, molete deo." "No problem," the driver replied. James mused on the possibility of getting his pound of flesh, as this was his avid craving. Flashback. Like any typical day, James was about driving into his residence when a lady flagged him down with full intensity. "Good evening, sir. Please, I want to see you." James gave her a scanning look. "Hope no problem," he queried. "Nothing much, sir. I just need your help." He signaled to her to hold on. Then he parked his Venza and strolled out to meet her. "Sir, please, I need some amount for food and drugs for my ailing brother." James gave her a long look. She lowered her face to hide the embarrassment. Afterwards, she looked up and pointed to the adjacent road. On a bench laid an individual who moved with difficulty. He gave her another probing stare. There was something intriguing about this forlorn damsel. Her innocence held his gaze. "Let's see him," James ordered. She walked briskly and led the way. On a bench lay a young man, slightly older than the damsel and roughly dressed. He gripped his head and lamented of a brewing headache. "What is wrong, young man?" James queried. "I have malaria, sir." James turned to face the damsel. "You stay here with him while I get my car," she responded. With a nod, "Okay, sir." He returned with his car and urged them in. He stopped by at the pharmacy, which is just a street away. The pharmacist examined the young man, then prescribed some drugs. James paid the bill and off he zoomed to the next destination. He stopped at a popular fast food joint in the neighborhood and led the way in. Afterwards, he placed another for them. While he nibbled on his meal, with not much interest, he watched with astonishment as the duo latched on their plates and munched on with reckless abandon, leaving no traces of crumbs to wipe off. In unison, they gave his full plate random stare. He pushed his plate towards them. "You can have it." They both struggled to have a fair share. For a moment, James brooded. Was this young man suffering from malaria or from starvation? Then he broke the silence and asked for their names. The damsel was quick to respond as she now wore a relaxed look. "I am Linda, and this is my elder brother Boniface." What about your family? James delved further. They exchanged glances. Then Boniface took the floor. We are orphans. Oh, sorry about that, James chipped in. Where do you reside? We are currently staying with our paternal uncle for now, but the challenge is he's also going through some rough times and takes out his frustration on us every now and then. So what do you both do at the moment? James probed on. Well, we do menial jobs at the nearby market, Boniface added. James was silent for a moment. Then he brought out a pen and scribbled his number on a note slip which he handed to Boniface. Give me a call tomorrow. Let me talk with one or two people on job openings. Thank you, sir. We are grateful, they both chorused. James dipped his hand into his pocket and brought out some notes. He counted 5,000 naira, which he handed to Boniface. Thank you, sir, they both chorused again. Then he excused himself and took his leave. In his office, James is a chartered accountant with a professional certification in ACCA, but his passion has always been software development. He bagged some certifications and now specializes in accounting software development and data analysis. His current project entails developing a platform that will track and capture all the financial transactions of Lotus POS solution at the back end. The board sought his expertise after a couple of discrepancies were uncovered in their annual financial report by external auditors. It was nearing the completion of the project with immense push from the board as nerves were wearing thin owing to the backlash experienced when the news filtered among the investors via grapevine source, giving the board no time to salvage the fragile situation. The board now has a deadline to clean up the mess and build back the lost trust. A call came in from Boniface, who called to express gratitude following his employment as a cleaner stroke gardener with one of James' contacts. James encouraged him to give it his best shot, as this would translate to other opportunities. Then the call ended. James just concluded a meeting with the board where he intimated them on the operations of the platform. They were impressed with the design of the process flow. Some recommendations were chipped in, which would be incorporated for the final review. After the presentation, James was called aside by Mr. Williams, vice chairman of the board, who applauded his work and encouraged him to keep at it as more groundbreaking opportunities were on the way. Boniface and Linda became frequent visitors to James' residence. They saw him as the mentor they needed at this defining time of their lives. Linda also put her cooking skill to work and was responsible for preparing James' weekly soup and stew, which she stored in his freezer. She was about leaving for home after concluding her routine task when she was stopped by Joshua, the security guard. Ah, Linda, nothing for me. I've been salivating, oh, he probed. Mr. Joshua, I didn't cook much today. I have an urgent errand to run, but by next week I will do the usual, she responded with a smile. No problem, Linda. We are together. Then she hurriedly faded into the street. While in his office, James received a mail which disclosed that his official residence would be refurbished and furniture upgraded Hence, he would be lodged in a hotel for a 2-week period. This was a way of the board appreciating his deliverable. In the contract signed, James is expected to kickstart the running of the platform for 2 years and subsequently groom the key staff who will take over the management of the platform. James was pleased with the meal and smiled to himself before continuing his work. Over time, James grew fond of Linda and could not keep his emotion at bay any longer. On a Saturday afternoon, he voiced out after a mouth-watering meal, "Linda, please sit down. I want to have a word with you." "Okay, sir," Linda responded. "I've grown really fond of you, and I want you to be my girlfriend." She lowered her face to hide the surprised look which it now bore. Then she raised it up and gave him a brief glance. "Sir, I'm not ready for a relationship. I still have a lot of things that I want to achieve. I want to go back to school, which was earlier cut short, and expand my sales business," she cut him. "Very impressive. This is one of the reasons why I'm attracted to you. You are very ambitious. But it doesn't stop you from giving my proposal some consideration. I will support your education and career ambition. Just give it some thought," he pleaded with his eyes. "Sir, can we take things slowly for now and just be friends?" James gave a nod. "That's fine with me." Their discussion then drifted to general topic. At Boniface Mini Flats, he was engrossed with his computer when a call came in. "Hello? Hello?" he called out. It was a private number. At about 10 seconds, the individual called out his name from the other end with a husky baritone. "Boniface, how is the job going?" he queried. "I'm working on it, sir," he responded with unease. "We are running out of time, so deliver fast," he stressed hard. "I will, sir," he added. Then the line cut. Boniface paced his room space for a minute. Then he was interrupted by another call. This time, it was the familiar voice of James. "Good afternoon, sir." "Afternoon, Boniface. I would like to see you tomorrow if that's okay with you." "That's fine, sir. It's my off day." "Oh, that's great. Tomorrow then." Now seated in James' living room, James broke the silence. "Boniface, I want your permission to date your sister. She's very intelligent, ambitious, self-driven, a good cook, and an industrious woman. One cannot see a good thing and let it pass by." Boniface's eyes widened in fury. He could not contain his rage and jealousy. He tightened his fist as if to deal a deadly blow on James' skull. Then he remembered the plan and immediately masked his anger with an echo laughter, which translated to a smile. Then he released his clutched fist. "Of course, sir. Who will not want to have you as an in-law? You have my full support." James smiled in return. They had some little chat afterwards. Boniface left for home. Now at home, Boniface pondered. "There's no time to waste. The die is cast, and I need to act fast before this loser snatches Linda from me." He paced his tiny bedroom space repeatedly, enmeshed in beads of sweat, until he collapsed on his bed and dozed off. It's a sunny Saturday afternoon. Boniface and Linda went on their routine visits to James' residence. James engaged them in the usual mentorship session before dabbling to general gist. Subsequently, they had a sumptuous meal of oha soup, accompanied with pounded yam and goat's meat, courtesy Linda. James and Boniface then moved to the living room, where they sipped their juice as they watched the Premiership match. In less than 10 minutes, James dozed off on the cushion where he sat watching the game. Boniface stole some glances from the corner of his eyes. Afterwards, he gave James a long, hard look. He moved closer to his slouch frame and lifted his left hand. Then he dropped it to confirm if he was fully sedated. He whispered softly, "Linda, he's asleep. The pill worked." Linda tiptoed to the living room and stood beside Boniface to review closely. "Where's his laptop? We don't have much time," Boniface probed. "It's in his room." Linda pointed to the room upstairs. Boniface rushed to James' room and flipped through his things before he finally settled down on a seat and opened James' laptop. He dipped his hand in his pocket and brought out a flash. He logged into his laptop, solved different folders, and finally opened the Lotus software program folder. He copied all the vital folders from James' hard drive before wiping them off. He slipped the flash back into his pocket. Then he strolled towards James' dressing table, where he placed his gold wristwatch. Boniface drooled over the classic piece as the glitz and glamour made it impossible to let go of. He slipped it into his pocket, then raced the stairs back to the living room. Linda joined him. "I've cleaned up the kitchen and wiped off any traces of suspicion," she disclosed. "Let's leave this place right away. I need to hand over this flash to Mr. Z and get the balance payments while you pick the vital things from our apartment. I will meet you afterwards in the hotel." Linda gave a nod as they walked out briskly. They were met by the prying eyes of Joshua. Before he could say anything, Linda handed him a bowl of oha soup with pounded yam and goat's meat. Joshua chuckled, then busted into laughter. "Linda, you do well, oh. Thank you." He raised his right hand to gesture his appreciation and exchanged smiles with Boniface as they walked away. Just when Boniface was bolting the gate after them, an intrusion query from Joshua left them frozen for a moment. "What of Oga? Is he still going out?" Linda curtailed the tension. "He has gone upstairs to rest. He said he doesn't want to be disturbed." "Oh, okay, no problem," Joshua retorted. After walking a safe distance, Boniface flagged 2 cabs and they went their separate ways. Boniface alighted from a cab, halted a moment, then looked around before walking towards a tinted Lexus parked in an isolated corner along the busy Idowu-Taylor Road at Victoria Island. The door opened and Boniface slid in. In less than 5 minutes, he opened the door and slipped out, carrying a suitcase. He scanned around again and flagged another cab. He hastily jumped in as it zoomed off. Back at James' residence, he was woken from sleep by the repeated knocks from the main entrance. "Oga! Oga! Are you okay?" Joshua yelled out and continued knocking. With dim eyes, James sat up on the cushion as he tried to make sense of what was happening around him. He dragged his tired body to the entrance and opened the door to the worried gaze of Joshua. "Oga, are you all right?" he sought calmly. James rubbed his face as he yawned lazily. "I'm fine, Joshua. I think I overslept." "Oga, you really slept though. It's 11 a.m. I didn't see you go to church this morning, so I decided to check up on you." "Are you kidding me? It's 11 a.m. Sunday morning." He lashed back in shock. "Yes, Oga," Joshua reiterated. "Thanks a lot, Joshua. I'll just freshen up now." Then he shut the door and rushed up the stairs. While in his room, James settled at the edge of his bed. As he tried to make sense of what happened, the last thing he recalled was him watching a Premiership match with Boniface in the living room. How come he slept off on his cushion till 11 a.m. this morning? He scratched his head for a moment. This is so unlike him to sleep that long. He could not even recollect when Boniface and Linda left. Was I that exhausted? He mumbled beneath his breath as he grabbed his towel and strolled to the bathroom. Boniface and Linda sat together in the bus while the driver raced at top speed on the express. Their destination was Ilorin, to lie low for a while until the race dust was settled. They exchanged glances at random while Boniface clasped the suitcase tight between his legs. Now seated in his room, James opened his laptop to put some finishing touches to Lotus platform design. He has another presentation before the board on Monday morning. He put on his laptop and was startled. Something didn't feel right. He hastily scrolled through his folders. Then it hit him. Some folders were missing. He searched on for the Lotus folder, but there was no trace. "What is happening?" James whispered. His fingers trembled as he searched again. Then he stood up and paced his room amidst confusion. The thought hit him. Linda and Boniface were here yesterday. Did they touch my laptop? James grabbed his phone and dialed Linda's number. After 5 failed attempts, he dialed Boniface's number as well. The response he got was, "The number you're calling is not available." James dashed out of his apartment and headed for the security post, where he saw Mr. Joshua listening to radio news. "Joshua, what time did Linda and Boniface leave here yesterday?" "Around 6 p.m. Hope no problem, sir," Joshua inquired. "Was there anything unusual about them?" James probed on. "Oga, I observed that they were in a hurry, so I asked them if you were still going out. Linda said you had gone upstairs to rest and didn't want to be disturbed. Is that so?" James nodded his head. "Did anything happen?" Joshua sought with a concerned look. "Don't worry, Joshua. I just needed some clarification." James dashed back to his apartment and dressed up. Then he hurriedly drove to Boniface's apartment, only to be told by an inquisitive neighbor that Linda showed up Saturday evening and hastily left with a packed box. She added that Linda probably traveled with Boniface, her boyfriend. "Boyfriend?" James interrupted with displeasure. "Linda is his sister," he stressed. The inquisitive neighbor broke into momentous laughter. Is that what they told you? She giggled as she walked away. James was weak and frozen at the spot. He wiped his face and shook his head vigorously. This was too much to take in. So this duo strung him along all the while. He felt like the biggest fool. He walked out of the premises looking defeated. So their plan all along was to get close to me, earn my trust, then steal Lotus prototype design. James hit the bonnet of his car in fury. Then he headed back home. Log on to the next episode